All right, guys, well, we are back in the building, and we have got to talk about this sneak peek that we have for next week's episode of The Real Housewives of Potomac. I am going to warn you, this is a spoiler video. This is a spoiler video. So if you don't like to be spoiled, I don't know what to tell you, but let's get into the business of it all. So you know that in this past week, we left off with Karen and Giselle confronting Mia over the things that Gordon told Ray, some of which include that he had already had a paternity test. Again, when we discussed it in the episode, we did not know the timeline, but we do find out the timeline in this episode. We also find out that in this past week, we also found out that they are apparently not divorcing, according to Gordon, and that he has suggested some type of parental, or I should say marital therapy, post-marital therapy or something to that effect, right? So there's all these lingering questions with the group with regards to what had happened when Mia was in Panama and, she didn't know what was going on with the kids. Mia came out yesterday or at least the night before, and released the text messages to sort of show the audience the timeline for which she and Gordon were in communication about the kids before they went to Panama, and then afterwards when the girls confronted her in this particular episode at that time, which was around July 18th, if we go back to those notes. Now, this episode continues that argument because remember, we got a to be continued and we did not get a preview. In this preview, we see Karen continuing to go in on Mia about lying about not knowing the paternity and how long she knew, as well as allegedly lying about whether or not the divorce from Gordon was indeed true and real. So her and Mia kind of get into it and go back and forth about her DUI. They do edit the episode out of sequence because it looked like that happened before Karen was actually able to dive into what it was that she was going to reveal. But during this episode, it is Mia says those things about Karen's DUI as Karen is confronting her. So that's a little bit different from the last episode. Regardless, Stacy feels that it is mean-spirited of Karen to confront Mia in this way in front of the group. Now, a lot of people have felt like, because I was looking at the comments, a lot of people felt like, well, it should have been brought to the group because the news had been brought to the group over a year ago and the story had continued. So what we have here is a little bit of a quagmire. So in this episode, you will see Mia sort of want to walk off and tell the group that she doesn't owe them any explanations, right? Now, remember, Jacqueline had said she had found out maybe a day or two before and she wasn't ready to tell the group, which, when I polled the audience yesterday in our recap, I asked, does she owe them that information and when does she owe it to them as the mom? Because I don't have an answer for that, to be quite honest with you, because this is new territory for me as a reviewer. So what happens next is Stacy sort of stays behind with Mia as the rest of the ladies head inside. And, she tries to tell Mia, and empathize with her. She says, listen, she didn't feel that it was right for it to be brought to the group in that way. But she does encourage Mia to go clarify this with the ladies because everyone has questions and they are confused and she can clear it up. Mia says, I don't have to clarify anything. That would be like you having to clarify whether or not Arabella is your daughter or your soon-to-be ex-husband's daughter. Or then she goes to a place that I don't think is going to work out well. She says that's also like comparing whether Karen's daughter is actually Ray's because that is questionable. So when she says that, I'm like, oh no, Mia, not another reference to someone else's child, because it did not go very well the first time. So And I know that it was an analogy, but it's still like, because you also threw in that extra about it being questionable, it's just like, bro, like we can't do that. I just, it analogies never work on housewives. Okay? They just don't. Remember the great, I mean, and by great, I mean the late, the late great debate about the accusation or the analogy that Jackie used with Teresa and her daughter on the Real Housewives of New Jersey. That did not work very well for anybody, okay? And the reverberations of that, I think, were felt throughout the rest of Jackie's time on that show. And I think ultimately, I think it led her down an interesting path on the show. So analogies don't work on housewives, especially when it regards the kids. That's just the pure, honest truth. But what happens next is also interesting, because when, Karen notices that Stacy is sticking behind and speaking with Mia and allowing Mia to say things about her. And she then wonders, she says, what does Mia have on Stacy to make her suddenly seem to switch sides and not support her? Because as you guys recall, Stacy was brought to the show by Karen, or at least that's how it was presented to us as the audience. But we know how these things can go, right? So when that happens, you see Dr. Wendy roll over to Stacy and Mia and point blank ask Stacy, I'm confused. Which side are you on? You need to pick a side, right? And as I was reading the comments, it was very interesting because a lot of people felt like Stacy should have picked a side. And Stacy's stance was this. Stacy said, when it comes to the kids, it would have been better for Karen to come and speak with the mother first versus bringing it to the group. And then she says, I stand by my stance on this. So here is where we can clearly begin to see a rift forming between Stacy, Wendy, and Karen. And it is all about Stacy's stance about how she feels about how this information has been brought to the group. Now, true enough, Stacy is new to the group, so her opinion of these things are a bit more distanced from the rest of the group who has been around it for quite some time, right? So everybody probably has very hard stances in the group, and Stacy is new to this. So she is going to have a different perspective, which ultimately, in my opinion, makes for a better show because it's not everybody versus one person. So I think we're going to see some interesting things start to happen in the next few episodes with regards to Stacy, Wendy, and Karen, as we saw in the first trailer that came out for the season. If you go back to that first trailer, you will see what I'm saying. All right, so next, I do want to talk about Mia for a second. She has updated her Instagram and seemingly responded to some of the backlash by offering a level of explanation about where she and Gordon are today. In a post with the kids and Gordon, she says, this season of our lives has been one of profound growth, reflection, and transformation. Living alongside bipolar disorder has brought both unique challenges and unexpected blessings to our marriage. While the journey has not always been easy, it has taught valuable lessons about resilience, love, accountability, and the power of understanding. The challenges of being married to someone with bipolar disorder are real. The unpredictability of mood swings, the emotional highs and lows, and the strain it can place on everyday life have tested our patience, communication, and ability to adapt. There have been moments of fear, frustration, and uncertainty as we navigated the complexities of this condition together. Yet through these challenges, we've discovered immense strength in our relationship. Bipolar disorder has deepened our empathy and compassion for one another. It has taught us to communicate more openly, to lean on each other during difficult times, and to celebrate the small victories. It has shown us the importance of seeking support, practicing self-care, and embracing the beauty of imperfection. Perhaps the greatest lesson this season has brought is the reminder that love is not about perfection, but about showing up for one another. Even when things are hard, the journey has strengthened our bond and given us a greater appreciation for the moments of joy and stability. It has also allowed us to advocate for mental health awareness and to break down the stigma surrounding bipolar disorder. We are grateful for this season, not because it has been easy, but because it has shaped us into stronger, more compassionate individuals and partners. To anyone facing similar challenges, know that you are not alone, and with patience, understanding, and support, it is possible to find growth and beauty in even the most difficult moments. A love letter to our family and friends, and a special thank you to everyone for taking the time to share your personal experience, love, and support. I read all of your messages. I see you, and I love you. #mental health, #mental health awareness. And there you have it. That is the news and the spoiler for next week's episode of The Real Housewives of Potomac. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. And please be sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Click that like button if you like reality TV related content, and I will catch you in the next video.